process that a municipality, commercial or industrial customer, how they get better rates than the utility defaults. I won't go over that, but it's been millions of dollars for the town of Derry residents, saving taxpayers money. Briefly about our team. Standard Power is a municipal, commercial, industrial energy broker. We have individual customers. We do buying groups with hundreds or thousands of meters. We teamed up with a company called Good Energy in 2021 to respond to the Keene RFP for community power services. Community power basically has regular brokerage services plus consumer support and outreach services. So we teamed up. Good Energy has experience across the country, but their New England team has, and here's some programs, 45 programs in Massachusetts, programs in Rhode Island, and together we launched 4 programs in New Hampshire in June, including the town of Keene, the city of Keene. And at the moment we have 23 programs going through the planning process or all the way through launch. So I'm going to give you a little more precise definition of community power. It's where the municipality procures electricity supply for the benefit of residents and small businesses. It affects only the supply portion of your electricity bill. The delivery, emergency services, and billing all stay with the utility. That means you continue to receive one bill. And if the power goes out on your street, the same crews show up to fix your power. This doesn't affect, this is a contractual agreement. It's not a physical agreement. Your power is still delivered by the grid, by the ISO New England. There are hundreds of programs around the country. They are popular for 2 main reasons. And really the biggest reason is that they secure competitive pricing and savings for customers. And we can do this with really basic brokerage tools. The utility is compelled to purchase electricity on a fixed schedule and a short time frame. The town and we are not required to work on such a rigid schedule. So we use market timing, we use contract length, and we use buying power, bundling customers together to get better rates consistently than the utility default. Another reason these programs are popular, and in a lot of ways the impetus to bring them to towns like Derry is their use and support for renewable energy. So there are established renewable energies nationally. That's been for more than 20 years. It's called decoupling. I can go into that if you want more information about how that's calculated, but the main point is that renewable energy in the program is verifiable and locationally verifiable, and it's determined through renewable energy certificates. The renewable energy markets have market opportunities. They have different quality of renewable energy, but in essence, the program can choose, and the extra money, if a customer chooses to pay for more renewable energy, that goes less a small processing fee to renewable energy producers. The program can make program choices, and if the town of Derry had renewable energy goals, then the community power program can work as a whole to work toward those goals. And then it can support local resource development by purchasing electrons or purchasing renewable energy certificates from local projects. So we don't start with those more creative aspects. As I said, your plan starts with a basic, basic program, but they can be worked in subsequent contracts. And then there are more benefits, and I often speed through this one, but a couple that are really important. Consumer protections. Residential customers in New Hampshire have had the choice of using competitive supply for over 20 years, but historically about 10% entered the competitive supply market, and some people get great deals, but other people suffer from predatory practices. And so a community power program that is run by the town of Derry provides consumer protections and confidence for consumers that that's a place that they can go and get better rates and have consumer protections. But it also local control, energy planning, it can be a part of an education and awareness and an innovative local programs program. So currently, all customers in New Hampshire, all electricity customers, either make a choice for their electricity supply, they're on a third-party supply. If you do that, then you know who you are, or they are on utility default supply. There's no kind of third category. Even if you don't pay your bill, you have a supplier assigned to you. Community Power creates a new default service for customers. So that means that new customers entering Derry or the program will provide new basic service for all customers in Derry. This is a fundamental part of a community power program. It's an opt-out program, so customers on utility default supply are automatically enrolled in the new community default supply. They can opt out, they can opt back to the utility, they can go to a third-party supply, they can choose other program options. But the bundling of customers is a key to getting the rates that we can get, the savings that we can get. So that's a fundamental element of this program. So we ran a Derry community survey. This says 84, that we were over 100 responses. But in essence, now this is the, I think it's the 12th or so survey that Standard Power has run in the state of New Hampshire that with similar results. So roughly half, I think with 100 responses, the large green pie wedge there, which says, I would like extra renewables if I can pay about the same as I pay today, is about 50%, now 51%. But essentially, people would like more renewable energy if they don't have to pay more for it. And that's been consistent across the state and confirmed again in Derry with this survey. And then there were other people who said they would like additional renewable energy, a small fraction saying they would like 100% renewable energy, and then 25% said no, they would not like more renewable energy. So we use these pie slices to determine what kind of products we would offer in the program. And in the plan, this is what the products would be. There'd be a standard default that would add a small amount of renewable energy. We do not launch programs that don't have savings over the utility default upon launch. So if we so that would determine how much renewable energy is in the default to ensure that there's savings there upon launch. And then we always offer a basic option which meets the state standards but offers no additional renewable energy, so that's the best price in the program. And then we can offer one or two additional renewable energy options for the program so that individuals can choose what they want to do. This is really a community-built program. The council, if it sees fit, will bring the program to the community, and then individuals make a choice on where they want to be. You don't need to choose what your neighbor chose or something else. This increases your options. So this is an example of an operating program. I said that programs launched in New Hampshire, but they're only a couple of months old. So this is a program in Massachusetts, and it's been running since 2017. So the blue toothy line there is the Eversource Massachusetts default service electricity supply cost. The green dotted line is the program default. So you can see it was stable rate between 2017 and 2022. Rate didn't change. So for people who like to budget, this is a great program. The program, and then the orange line is the basic rate, the best rate that we could negotiate as brokers for the program. There was a contract renewal in the end of 2019 and at the end of 2022. At the end of 2019, if you look at the legend that's just below the title, it shows the Somerville default. It started with 5% renewable energy, and then it doubled to 10% renewable energy in the end of 2019, and the price didn't change for that default. And then that community had a renewable energy goal. So in 2022, despite the increase in costs, they doubled the price again. That jump in prices is, you can see it jumped a little bit related to the renewable energy, but that's basically the market jumping. And this chart hasn't been updated, so the current Eversource default rate is it's like 15.9 cents a kilowatt hour. The program is still competitive with the Eversource default rate. Oh, and I'll point out one other thing. If you look at the end of 2020, that's beginning of COVID, the program rate, the green dotted line, well, the program rate stays the same. It doesn't move for the contract period, but the utility default rate fell below the program rate. And at that point, for 6 months, the program cost was a little bit more than the utility cost. Customers have the ability to come and go for no cost. As a practical matter, changes are made on the monthly meter read date. So you have 12 opportunities to, you can join the program, you can leave the program, you can change products 12 times a year. But you know, I just want to point out that a customer who left the program, if they thought, oh, I'm going to save money, I'm going to leave the program at the middle of 2020, but if they didn't get back into the program by the end of 2020 and stayed on the utility default, then they had high costs. So this is a program for people. This is a default program for people to go in and get stable rates and have the confidence that the rates aren't going to be volatile or you know, have surprises. So I have 2 slides about, and I'm getting close to the end here. This is an Eversource bill. I realize Derry has all 4 the 3 regulated utilities and the co-op. But so this shows your bill is divided into supply and delivery. And on this bill, on the front side, it says your electricity supplier is. This says any company, but if you're an Eversource default service customer, it says Eversource. And if a program is enabled and a customer joins the program or is automatically enrolled, this would say Derry Community Power. That's the name that's reserved for your community. And then on the other side of this bill, there's another place to see your supplier and how your charge is calculated. You can see supplier in parentheses. It says any energy company. That if you're an Eversource customer and that says Eversource there, then you would be automatically enrolled in the program, and it would say Derry Community Power. And then you can just see the calculation there, 600 kilowatt hours use times a rate. That rate is where the community power rate would occur. I've fielded about 150 customer calls with the programs that have launched, mostly about net metering, but it's great for people to have a look at their bill and become familiar with the details on their bill so they can be informed energy consumers. So Derry, so we tried something a little bit differently this time. We moved through the public and local approval process at the same time we moved through the state approval process. I felt confident recommending that to the committee because we have we have plans that have been approved at the state level already. So today at about 3:30, we heard that the Derry plan was approved. So the approval of the council would be the other step that's required for the process to move forward to the pricing process. And in the plan, there's about a 90-day schedule for the steps that we take from once we have all the approvals together to build the plan out through pricing, through public outreach. Letters go out to all customers. 1 or 2 mailings go to all households. We do outreach to news outlets to let people know that the program is happening and to give them information. There's a required hearing about it's something within 10 days or so of the mailing. So far that's been a well-attended hearing for people to get their questions answered as the program is rolling out. There's a 30-day opt-out period, so customers who would be automatically enrolled will have a period of time when they can consider their options and choose to participate or make another choice in the program. So I think that's the end. I think that's my last slide, other than my contact information. So thank you for your time tonight, and appreciate you considering community power for Derry.
Thank you. Questions? Comments?
Sure.
You have something?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask a couple of quick questions, because we kept bringing up Eversource. So you don't have to be a Eversource customer to participate, correct?
That's correct, and we anticipate having favorable rates for all the utilities and hopefully for the co-op customers as well.
Okay.
That's our intention.
And give me an idea of where you're purchasing, obviously solar, I would imagine hydro power, and you just go into contract and you purchase in certain time periods? Is that how it works?
So the basic power is regular grid power purchased. It's a mix of grid utility resources. And the renewable energy are Class 1 renewable energy certificates. So they come from a approved list. Upon launch, we use a mix of ones attached to the New England grid, but we can do Class 1 solar renewable energy that's located as close to Derry as possible. That your plan prioritizes renewable energy resources as close to Derry as possible.
So you're buying RECs on the market, is that
Correct.
what it is? Okay. So that's the questions I have for now.
Yeah, a little concerned with the opt-out. We should be opting in. So I think this option should be presented at the people, and they have what they have now, and if you present an adequate option in a public meeting or through press releases or, flyers or however you want to do it, but help me understand, I'm going to have to do this and then opt out. I can't support something where I'm going to be forced to do something, then I got to go do something to change back to what I want. I should keep what I have, and you offer me an option, and if I want it, sign on the dotted line and get it.
So we hear this, I think we would all prefer an opt-in program. But we've had an opt-in program for 20 years. That's what deregulation is. That's an opportunity. Actually, it's not in all states. It's special in New Hampshire that residential customers now can go out and get their own competitive supply. That's a privilege that's not available in all states, but it is available here. The problem is that the providers of residential competitive supply have some issues. They can give you a great rate for an introductory rate, and for customers who are savvy and pay attention to their contract, they can continue to get good rates. But for the average customer, they don't manage that process, and they end up with usurious rates. Over this process, I've seen rates as high as 29.99 cents a kilowatt hour for supply. So that's someone who walked up to me in a public hearing and said, what is my rate? What am I paying now? And I showed them what it was. And so they were paying over 40 cents a kilowatt hour. Like, we have opt-in now, and still only about 10% take it up. So we need in order to get the prices that we are getting, and our first program saved 9 cents a kilowatt hour over the utility default. It was 11.1 cents against 20 cents. To get those prices, we need to work together, and that's the community part of a plan, is that the community works together to bring it to the community, and then individuals work to get your friends and neighbors, yourself, into the right choice for yourself.
Again, it's like anything else. I can't support an opt-out program. We have rates now. We do what we do now. If you have a vehicle that's that good, it should be very easy for people to opt in. To force everybody in town to do that, and then to say, well, if you don't want this, then you gotta, fill out a postcard or call us and go back to Eversource or whomever, it's counterintuitive. Opting out programs have always been troubling to me in any industry. I mean, you got a great product. I'm not saying you don't have a great product, but having me turn everybody in Derry over to a program and then saying, well, if you don't want it, now fill out the card and get out. I got what I have. If I'm happy with what I have, I don't want to change. I shouldn't be forced to change and then go back. David has a response to that.
Clarify.
Yeah.
I have a contract with Constellation Energy. So when this rolls out, my contract with Constellation Energy stays. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So the only difference is if I chose not to sign with a provider, instead of Eversource being my default provider, it'll be the Derry program.
Yes, that's correct. So I don't think I made it possibly
Well, that's what I'm trying to
clear enough there.
understand. I mean, I'm an Eversource customer now. If I don't want to leave Eversource, I shouldn't have to leave. If you come to me with a better option and you're going to save me, 10 cents a kilowatt hour, send me a card, I'll look at it and I'll check the box. I mean, it's kind of like an internet provider, right? We are, a lot of people have Comcast, and Fididium sends you a card every month telling you they're better than Comcast. Sign it if I want.
So, and you get solicitations now. That's what happens now, is you get solicitations from providers that will say 10 cents for 3 months or 12 months or whatever.
Yeah.
You get solicitations now, that happens now. This program doesn't exist without it being opt-out, it's key that the customers are bundled together. We can't offer the prices. We can, on the state website now, our prices, 13 cents, you can have rates now that may or may not compete with the utility default rate, but you can't. Community Power fundamentally is an opt-out program. I mean, it's allowed to be opt-in, but in essence, it doesn't.
But what you're
that's
asking
not
me
the-
to do is legislate to 12,000 households in Derry. You have to be on this program for at least 24 hours, and then you got to call a hotline and go back to wherever you want.
No, so you do not have to be on the program at all. There's a period of, and there's an opt-out period. There's a legislated opt-out period.
Just for clarification, the reason the legislature approved an opt-out was because opt-ins just don't work. Now, whoever's got Eversource now has not taken the interest in going to a third-party provider. So what this program does, instead of paying a default at Eversource at a high level, you'll pay a default to another entity at a lower level. That's all this program is.
But you're forcing me to go on this program. And am I no longer an Eversource customer?
You're no longer buying your power from Eversource. You're still an Eversource customer for delivery, like the rest of us.
What's my bill going to say?
Your bill comes from Eversource, and as Emily showed you on the slide, there's a section for delivery and there's a section for power. That's what mine looks like. It says, except for the power purchase, it's Constellation. It's not Eversource.
Right. No, I get what you're saying.
They need the numbers to make the numbers work, basically.
Mass buying power, essentially. Mike?
Okay, so maybe I can put this into perspective. And so the collective nature of the purchase, we've estimated that Derry's total residential load is about 100 million kilowatt hours annually. And the idea would be Eversource and the other utilities fluctuate their rates every 6 months. And that's the only way that they do it. So I believe, like, for example, Eversource was 20 cents going through this past winter, and lots of social media about it. There was a lot of newspaper articles, and people were trapped. They couldn't get, and I think a lot of people didn't even have the means to get out of those contracts. In this particular situation, what we're doing, serving as the aggregator for everybody, we go to market, we deliver the 4 options based on the amount of renewables. The idea is going to be, to use an NFL term, beat the spread, right? If we're able to take the August rate from Eversource is 12.58 cents, okay? Emily and the team from Standard Power goes out to bid, and they're able to get 10 cents per kilowatt hour. So that's about a 2.5 cent per kilowatt hour. Everybody in Derry benefits from that. Okay, an average homeowner is about 600 kilowatt hours per month. If you save a penny between the 2 rates, that's $6 a month. 2 pennies, it's $12 a month. And so you add that up across the community, the savings are going to quickly get into the 6-digit, 7-digit frame. And so basically, nobody has to do anything to attain those. Now, if, for example, as Emily had mentioned, you look at the 2020, there's that little dip that the program delivered or was in a higher price than what that 6-month interval was. People can opt out at that point and say, look, I don't want to be in the dairy community program. I want to go back to either a competitive supplier or I want to go back to my default, meaning Eversource. But to get those rates, we have to have the bulk of the 100 million kilowatt hours, or otherwise we'll be scattered all over the place. I can tell you that when we bid for the municipality, which is only an 8 million kilowatt hour per year program, schools are included with us, but if the schools went out on their own, they would not get the same rate because the town has the wastewater treatment plant, which is a very, very good profile because we run 24/7. So we made a decision as a governmental agency to blend those savings together and achieve those. Now, it still doesn't answer your question about the opt-out clause, but that's the way that this is going to be most effective for everybody. And there still are provisions that when we deliver those rates, the postcard goes out and we say, we've got a 24-month contract at 10 cents. Let's just use that as a number. There will be a window at which everybody can opt out, a phone number to reach out to, a website, and people can manage it at that point, or as they're going along, they then can opt out at that stage. So I think ultimately what this program is all about is to get money back into individual homeowners' pockets. And this is an easy way to do it in terms of, having a program. Again, if you are, constitutionally opposed to it, you can simply opt out. Does that make sense, essentially?
I would just like to add one thing to what Mike said, which is that we go out to bid with the group, but if these programs are very popular once they are instituted, and the supplier takes all of the price risk. So the municipality isn't at risk. There's no cost to the municipality. We don't take on the risk. It's all on the supplier. So they are motivated to give you a price that over the 2 years, people aren't going to migrate from. But if everybody did, if you're the last customer standing, you still get that price. So we don't need the people. It's a pricing policy. And we kind of take a leap of faith together, but then these programs are resilient. People stay in them. They figure out their options. And as I said before, if you don't make a choice of competitive supplier, you're kind of forced onto the utility default. There's no real free choice in electricity supply now.
So it's a safeguard, essentially. You have that built-in safeguard.
Yes, it's a safe. We work with top national suppliers, and they provide the rates, the contracted rate. The customer doesn't bear any of the risk, so their goals are aligned with the community to have a successful program that saves customers money over time.
Yeah,
Churchill.
yeah, no. So the way I'm kind of looking, I understand Councilor McEachran's concern. The way I'm kind of looking at it is giving consumers another choice, number one, even though it's the way that they're working it. You have to have the numbers to make it work. So my question would be, if you have a lot of people opting out, obviously the numbers get trickier when you go to renew. So what's the length of contract? If I'm in there and I stay in it, how long am I guaranteed the price? Is it a year thing? Is it six months? Is it?
So the town, at the point of purchase, the town decides the supplier, the contract, and the term length.
Okay.
And they get to see months and prices, they fluctuate over the year. So usually it's like a heat map. There's prices that make sense. And the first group had a choice between like 17 months and about 30 months where the prices looked attractive and they had to decide whether they were going to go with a shorter contract or a longer contract. But that was up to the town to decide for the contract length.
Okay.
Once it's signed, that's it for the customers. Customers can come and go, but the contract, the price just sits there for
Okay.
customers.
So let's be real here. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to complain if they have a lower bill. It's just not going to happen, right? So have you ever seen in any of these cases that you're actually higher than Eversource?
So, and that's why I put this example up, and because at the beginning of COVID, at the end of 2020, this actual program, flipped over. Again, the program rate stayed the same, but the utility rate fell. But if you look at the difference between that toothy blue line and the green dotted line,
Yeah.
those are the savings. So yes, the program lost a bit of its savings through a short period of time, but over that whole period, there's significant customer savings. And people really do value stable rates, and
Yeah.
and then the savings make these programs just.
So for me, to be honest with you, I'm just going to be upfront with you. I just pay my bill. I don't even look at it. And that's probably a problem for me because what we're doing is we're actually being a little bit more active in looking at our bills. We have to be proactive because it's almost like playing the stock market, right? I want to look at this number, I want to see what I want to do here. So you just have to be a little bit more active in looking at the bills.
Well, actually, this is something that people can be even less active because they'll have a stable rate. So they won't get bill shock from the utility default rate
Okay, and
going, jumping.
The town determines the length the length of cost.
Correct.
So we just ask you, we just say, for instance, 24 months. We get the quote back from you as to what that price is going to be, and you're locked in for the 24 months.
We actually get prices for a whole range of months, and then we look at it together. We usually will make a recommendation for, is 23 months better, 26 months, 17 months. Typical contract, though, average, and certainly on renewal, 24 months is a very common
Yeah.
contract length.
But when you're saying we look at it, that's you and the town, that's Standard Power in the town.
Right, as your services provider, we would help you look through that, but the
Right.
town makes the decision.
And then,
Correct.
I know it's kind of a stupid question, but how does Standard Power make money?
So we are paid, it's a mil per kilowatt hour, a tenth of a cent per kilowatt hour on the contract.
Okay,
So
so the
we-
more people that are on it, the better you do.
Right.
Okay,
I'm,
thank you.
thank you.
Quick question. What would be the rate today? Any idea?
So we try and resist predicting rates, but I'll give you a couple of, points of reference. Our first programs launched in June, well, they were priced in March, they launched in June. The basic rate, the lowest rate is 11.1 cents. Market for gas, which really determines electricity in New England, was about the same as it is today. About 250 a million BTU, if more or less. So that doesn't mean, so that was a 30-month contract. They started in June, so they had more summer months. So if, a program launched in the fall and had a 24-month contract, that might have a little more concentration of winter months. It might be a little bit higher. But we do think that the market is very stable right now. That's a great indicator of a great time to launch a program, is when the
So,
gas prices
I'm only
are
asking because I
stable.
was looking at my bill, and I know Eversource went down in August, and I looked on the state, and they're like 12 cents. And then, Unitel is like 11 cents, and then Liberty might be 13 cents. So I'm right, 11, 12 cents. So if you come in about 11, you're basically saving a penny per kilowatt.
So if we came in at 11, and I'm not saying industrial, commercial customers are getting better prices than that right now, so maybe we could do better, I'm not sure. But if you look on the example, they started with a razor-thin savings. And then, but the prices do go up and down, and
Right.
so
Right.
I think I think the idea is that you're protecting the upside, so, and just going for savings. And whether you get a little bit of savings or, as it happens, a lot of savings, 10 cents of savings, and, you know, in some cases.
It's like me buying 2,000 gallons of propane for my propane company for the winter at, say, $3.40 a gallon, but it could drop to $3.18 a gallon, it could go up to $3.80 a gallon, it's kind of the same thing,
It's the same thing.
yeah.
And a question?
Oh, but the difference is that in the propane example, you're locked into that amount, but in the community power example, you can hop out on your
Right.
next meter read.
Right.
Wait,
So-
one more quick question.
Okay.
If you don't mind, that kind of brought up something. So let's say that we have a fixed rate and then the rate goes down. Do you share that with the community, the downside?
So the rate is fixed for the contract period.
So if you're buying at a lower market, you're taking that, Standard Power's taking that.
So we are a broker, we're not a supplier. The supplier takes all of the price risk and they supply power. So whether
Okay.
they buy it, you know, I mean, for contracts like this, when they're guaranteeing power, they're hedging their own risks as well.
Right, they have to project. and-
Right, so this is a fixed rate contract, that's at least how we start out. The law allows for more creative things, but this is just the way we want to do it for, you know, this meets community municipal goals.
Okay.
Right. So, kind of like Councilor Joe, I don't really look at my bill, I just kind of pay it, whatever, and then, but, so to Councilor Durkin's point, like,
I just pay a flat rate, and once a year I either pay a little more, or my last bill's less.
right, so the whole,
And every year it's been less.
the whole opt-out sounds,
I'm happy with that.
right, the whole opt-out sounds kind of like, oof. I mean, I'm probably still paying my Columbia House records from 1985 prescriptions, because I don't look at it, like, I don't.
Put
'cause I
those
never opted
CDs
out, you know what
back.
I mean, so I kind of, I acknowledge his concern.
Times Magazine.
Get 20 CDs for a penny.
I acknowledge the concern with that, so, but you're saying, so this is the,
20 CDs.
again, the safeguard is the only word I can come up with moving forward. So we're gonna have those good rates potentially gonna be brokered, and then people, even down, let's say it's months down the road, they can still opt out at that time, correct?
That's correct. They can join the
Anytime.
program, leave the program anytime. And this is a municipal program. It's, you know, it has the weight of the municipality, of the town of Derry behind it, as well as suppliers whose goals are aligned with you. So it has both of those safeguards.
Right, so there's really, there's no increased risk for the dairy consumer, it's all just savings for them, not a risk at
It's
any
all,
point.
it's all options, and we don't promise, like on any brokerage arrangement, we can't promise you savings because we don't know what the utility rate is going to do for lots of reasons, but that's the goal is savings and the history is savings.
Right, no, as long
what-
as they're protected and there's an out for the consumers and whatnot, that's my,
So if I'm still gonna stay with Eversource, do I get some card in the mail that says you're now on Community Power saying it's 10 cents a kilowatt? Or you could just keep Eversource's rate of 11?
So your plan says
You
that
opt out to
as
pay
a,
more.
your plan says that as a utility default customer, so Eversource or Unitil or Liberty, you'll get a postcard that says, pay attention, there's a mailing coming, this is an official town program, there's a mailing coming, pay attention, it's got details, and you will have to take action unless you want to be part of the program. So you get a postcard, then everyone in town gets a letter. There's actually 2 different letters. If you're an eligible customer, you get a letter saying, if you take no action, you will be automatically enrolled. Here's the utility default rate. Here's the program default rate that you'll be in, and it
Moving
will
to.
be lower than the utility default rate. We don't launch without it. And then here are some more options. So it gives clear instructions. There's a telephone number for the supplier. There's a telephone number for us. There's a website. There'll be a website with forms to fill out, so you can do that. There are several sources of information and support. So, and you can get now I know, because we've been through this just in the last few months, you can call the supplier and get real-time information about about your account. I mean,
So my bill will still be Eversource.
Yeah.
yeah,
I still pay Eversource.
that's correct. Yep,
right,
yep.
right.
Yeah,
If
I'm
your
sorry if
power
I
lines
didn't
go
make
down,
that
you're
clear.
calling Eversource.
Okay.
Right.
I just don't like, I'm thinking,
Anything further? You
No.
you good? So want to read the motion?
oh,
You want me to do it, or you do it?
yeah, go ahead.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to read the resolution number 2023-064 to adopt the Derry Electric aggregation plan. Whereas Section 5.1 of the town charter designates the town council as a governing and legislative body to the town, and whereas the town council under resolution number 2023-043 created an electric aggregation committee pursuant to RSA 53E:6, and whereas a committee has developed an electric aggregation plan in accordance with the state statutes and received public comment during 2 public hearings, and whereas the plan, once approved by the Public Utilities Commission, will generate savings for utility customers in Derry, and whereas the town council adoption of this plan is required, now therefore be it resolved in council that the town council hereby adopts the Derry Electric Aggregation Plan, authorizes the submittal of the plan to the Public Utilities Commission, and thanks the Electric Aggregation Committee for their time and service to the community. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon its passage, adopted September 5th, 2023.
Second.
Okay, motion by Council Gracie, second by Council Katsoukaris. On the motion, Council Cherichello.
Yes.
Council Katsoukaris.
Yes.
Council Gracie.
Yes.
McGuckern.
I'm going to abstain because I prefer opt-in, but I think you've got a good program.
And I will vote yes. So 4-0-1. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving along, 23-101, resolution 2023-065 to approve the appointment of the town treasurer. Mr. Karen.
Okay, thank you. As you may know, Stacy has been our interim town treasurer and a deputy treasurer for a number of months now. Our recommendation is to confirm Stacy's appointment as the town treasurer. Typically in a town, you can't hold the positions of tax collector and treasurer simultaneously. You can in cities, and in 2013, the state legislature granted Derry the same power as the cities with regard to this position. Ironically, there's a state law taking effect in October in which towns under our form of government have all the rules, responsibilities, and authority of cities. And there's only 2 communities in that position. It's Derry and Durham. So we are seeking town council confirmation under the charter, section 916, to confirm the appointment of Stacy Bellabo as our town treasurer.
Hi.
Hi, good evening.
Any questions for me?
Nope. Mr. Chairman, once I flip far enough, I'm going to make a resolution number 2023-065 to approve the appointment of a treasurer. Yeah. Whereas Section 916 of the Town Charter requires the appointment of a town treasurer to be approved by the town council, and whereas tax collector Stacy Bellevue has been serving as the interim town treasurer during a vacancy in that office, whereas state legislature pursuant to HB 506-2013 session permitted the town of Derry to combine responsibilities of tax collector and treasurer, and whereas the administrative efficiencies will be realized by combining the responsibilities of the tax collector and treasurer, now therefore be it resolved that the approval of Stacy Bellevue as town treasurer is hereby approved. Resolution should take effect immediately upon passage. Today, September 6, 2023.
Second.
September 5th, sorry, Dana.
Yeah, that's it.
Want to do it tonight, right now.
All right, motion by Council McGuckern, seconded by Council Gracie. Do you want to give a speech or anything?
No.
On the motion, Council Cherichello.
Yes.
Council Katsoukaris.
Yes.
Council Gracie.
Yes.
Council McGuckern.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for all your continued hard work.
You're welcome.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
And congratulations.
Don't go anywhere, because you're the next one.
Stay right there.
You're also the next one.
Moving on, 23-102, Resolution 2023-066, to approve the appointment of a deputy treasurer. Mr.
Now
Karen?
that we have a town treasurer, I'll pass it over to Stacy.
Okay.
I would like to appoint Dahlia Regas as deputy treasurer.
Okay.
I can't assume there are any questions.
I have a quick question.
Brian has a question.
So what's the CD rate, what's the CD rates of today?
Oh,
I don't have that prepared this
Oh,
evening.
all right, okay.
quiz questions.
All right, just joking around.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a resolution number 2023-66
to approve the appointment of a deputy treasurer. Whereas RSA 41:29A allows the town treasurer to appoint a deputy treasurer with the approval of the council, and whereas a vacancy existed in the position of treasurer, and the town council under resolution 2023-065 appointed the previous deputy treasurer as treasurer, and whereas government efficiencies warrant the appointment of a deputy treasurer who may act in the absence of the treasurer, and whereas the treasurer has appointed Delilah Regis, am I close?
Dahlia Regas.
Dahlia Regis, thank you, Dahlia, as deputy treasurer who shall perform all the duties of the treasurer in case the treasurer is absent. Now therefore be it resolved in council that the appointment of Dahlia Regis as deputy treasurer is hereby approved. Resolution shall take effect immediately upon passage, September 5th, 2023.
Second.
Motion by Counsel McEachran, second by Counsel Katsoukaris. On the motion, Counsel Chercello?
Yes.
Counsel Katsoukaris?
Yes.
Counsel Jannesi?
Yes.
Counsel McEachran?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes. Congratulations.
Okay.
Welcome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Here's
Brian-
CD,
Brian
CD
expects that
rates,
CD rate tomorrow at 8 o'clock.
5.5.
23-103, Resolution 2023-067, to adopt and revise fee schedule for ambulance transport and associated emergency medical services. Fire Chief Jim Richardson. Welcome back, Chief.
Good to be back.
Been waiting patiently
King.
all night to come back.
Yes, excited to be back. Well, it's been 2 years since we've discussed ambulance rates, and we are, AR, I think it's 57, which requires us to look at these every 2 years. And I just want to introduce again Captain, our EMS Captain, Ed King. He took the place of Chuck Hemian, which they were huge, huge shoes to fill.
Ed can do it.
And he's doing a great job. So with that said.
Chuck's on speed
he's-
dial, right?
What's that?
Chuck's on speed dial.
Yeah, always.
Of course he is.
He's call a friend, right? Phone a friend?
Phone a friend.
Go on, Fred. Who wants to be a millionaire? Fred, yeah.
So, now that Ed's taken this over, he's put this, this presentation together, and I'm going to hand this over to him.
Well, fortunately, I had some, like you said, good, big shoes to fill, but he set me up very well for success. I appreciate that, and so we're going to continue to move forward from there. So we can go ahead and, we could go right to the end.
was the
I mean,
end. Any
I'm
questions?
perfectly fine with that. So as the chief said, this is per the town AR 57, that every 2 years we need to review these. So that's what we're bringing this to you. As he said, it was also, we last looked at this back in September of 21. Just as a quick background, wanted to show you where we were at from then until now, from July 1st of 22 to this past June 30th. We had almost 3,900 ambulance responses. Those broke down into a little over 1,700 treat and transport at an ALS level, 1,077 at a treat and transport of a BLS level. Now, ALS versus BLS, ALS is what we consider advanced life support, so more advanced skills, advanced providers. Those are the times where we're starting IVs or giving medications or other aspects like that. We had 354 refusals for transport, 314 evaluated no transport. We had some public assists as well as some people going against medical advice. What we're going to be talking about tonight is the treat and transports here. So what I've done is just giving us a quick history. We've already been talking a lot of numbers earlier on with electric rates. I'm going to throw some more numbers at you here. But what I've done is shown where we've come from with our ambulance rates and where we're proposing to go, and then I'll kind of get into the meat and potatoes as to why we're proposing what we're proposing. So you can see go back to 2019, those were our initial rates. You'll see that initially it says over on the left, BLS non-emergent and BLS emergent. We are a 911 agency. We do not do non-emergent calls. So BLS for us, all BLS calls that we respond to are considered emergent. That's why you see the prices are the same. And then it breaks it down through with our ALS 1, ALS 2. That's just different levels of advanced life support. When you get into that ALS 2, that's that really upper level that we can provide. Intubation of patients, putting breathing tubes down their throats, interpreting cardiac rhythms, things like that. SCT is specialty care transports. We really don't do that. That's as an example, a good example of that would be hospital to hospital transfer. We're taking a patient, a critical patient that's been brought to a lower care hospital, and they're being requested to transport to a higher care. We can do that. We typically take staff from the hospital involved. There is extensive training and costs associated with being a specialty care transport agency. It's not something we typically do here. And then we have ALS treat and release, and then mileage. So you can see across here, we have 2019 is where we started. In 2021, you go back is where we actually looked at that and have implemented the split rate, where Derry residents are charged one rate and the non-residents are charged a slightly higher rate. That has to do with the non-residents not contributing to our tax base. And that's looking at things like they're not contributing to the maintenance and purchase of fire trucks or ambulances or personnel or all those kind of things. So then what we have in the last two columns are what we're proposing for this next ambulance fee schedule. Now, that isn't something we just picked up random out of the air. What I ended up doing was calling 16 different New Hampshire fire departments, 9, and those departments in New Hampshire were centrally and southern located, so within our area. I also called 9 Massachusetts departments, as well as 4 private ambulances. Got a spreadsheet of all of their ambulance fee schedules, looked at it all, and then came up with this rate comparison chart. What I did is I took the 12 agencies within New Hampshire that are comparable to Derry, whether in size, call volume, or services that they provide for an ambulance. And I've ranked them from the highest paying to the lowest paying. I then inserted in the bottom yellow mark where it says Derry 2021 is our current rate. Now what this rate represents is an ambulance call that we've responded to that was determined to be at the ALS 1 level. We do approximately 45% of our calls are at that ALS 1 level. I then factored in the cost of 5 loaded miles, so the mileage rate charged for 5 miles, and then I summed it up for each one of these departments based upon the fee schedule that they gave me. So Derry, right now, in 2020, when we determined the rate in 2021, the cost is $1,724 for that ambulance transport. We then looked at it and estimated out what would it be with a 10% increase, a 15%, and a 20% increase. As you can see, the 10% was just slightly moving us up. We're in the, initially right now in this current list, we're in that bottom quarter of what area departments around charge for similar transports. 10% only moves us up one spot or so. That 15 kind of pushes us up in that top half, top third or so at 1983. And if we went to that 20%, that puts us right up at the top 2. And that wasn't something we felt totally comfortable with, being in that top area. While I am very proud of the people I work with, and I honestly say that we have some of the best paramedics in the state of New Hampshire. I'd put them up against anybody. Putting us up at that top level is not what we're trying to do here. We're not here just to make money. We're here to provide a service to the community, right? So that's where we came up with the suggestion of the 15% increase. The one thing I do want to say, there's an asterisk again on the Londonderry number at the bottom. They are the one exception to this rate comparison, is that that's what they charge for a base rate. But one of the things that they do that no other department in our area does is actually charge per procedure or item that they use. So let's say they put a patient on oxygen, there's a charge associated with that. If they use their cardiac monitor, there's a charge associated with that.
A la carte.
A la carte, exactly. Yep. Exactly, Counselor. So that's why that's denoted in that way. So that number is probably somewhat higher than what is listed there, but there's no real reliable way for me to be able to share that. Okay. So just real quick, I'm going to just jump into the actual payer mix, because it all sounds well and good to say, yeah, we're just going to charge 15% more to increase our revenue, but what does that actually mean? Well, our payer mix is pretty skewed towards one end. As you can see, 56% of our patients over this past year are Medicare patients, 14 are Medicaid, so that puts them a total of 70% of all our patients would not be affected by this rate, and I'll go into that in a little bit more. But then the next category would be private health insurance, so that's what people like myself have, whether it's Blue Cross or Cigna, Harvard Pilgrim, any of those. We then have 3% falls under that workers' comp, auto insurance, and then we have the 7%, which are uninsured. Our rates will not increase Medicare coinsurance or Medicaid fees at all. This is not what this rate increase is about. So The only two that this actually affects are patients with private health insurance and patients who are uninsured. Like I said initially, it will not affect those Medicare or Medicaid clients at all. So what I did is then I went to our vendor that does our billing services for us, and I asked them, I said, hey, we're looking at making this rate increase. And I gave them the proposed values, and I said, can you go back and look at this, take our past data, and tell me what projections you can make based upon that. So what they did is they used last year's data, they looked at the number of calls, and they looked at the payer mix. Their estimate was that at a 15% increase, we could approximately increase revenues by $50,000 to $60,000. So right now, Medicare reimburses 80% of the allowable national fee schedule, and I'll have that just on the next slide here in a second, directly to us. And I'll talk about how that occurs with our billing vendor in just a minute. Medicare then, the clients then pay that 20% copay. That remains the same, and that gets paid to us. Or it can be reimbursed by, if they have secondary insurance. Medicaid, New Hampshire Medicaid, reimburses at a flat rate, and the client has no financial responsibility. So it does not matter what we charge them, we get this a flat rate back. Next. And this is that Medicare, Medicaid fee schedule. So the top portion with the green and white is what we have for Medicare. As you can see, under the rate column, that's what the rate that we can bill up to. And then in the second column, so for example, a BLS call, the rate is $389.43. That the direct payment to the town, that 80% of that is that approximate $309, and then the individual is responsible for their additional copay. The bottom, under the Medicaid fee schedule, those are the flat rates. Doesn't matter, we could charge $5,000 a call, and if it's an ALS2, you're still going to get $186.02 for it. So none of this is going to change with anything that we're doing or suggesting. I wanted to just show this. There's a lot of numbers on here. I'm not going to dwell on it real much, but But what this is showing last year, so from July of 22 to June of 23. First column is the total number of transports that we made that we were able to bill over the course of the year. The next column is charges, so that's the total actual number that we charged. And then based upon those Medicare rates and the flat fee schedule for Medicaid, the next column is the adjustments, and finally we have the net charges. And the last column on the right shows what we are actually to collect. And the reason I'm showing this is that my understanding, and granted, I'm relatively new in this position. I started in December. I've been on the line here in Dairy Fire since 2002. So this is kind of a new position for me. I'm still learning a lot, but I'm talking to to other people within the business. What this shows right here between our net charges and collections is a 72% return. Is that we're getting 72% of the money back to us. I've been told that number across the industry is roughly 50. If you're above 50%, you're doing really well. So at 72%, we're well above that industry average. So our vendor that I keep mentioning here is Quick Med Claims, QMC. So basically, in a nutshell, how does this all work? Every single day, I come in and I scrub the reports. I go over them, making sure they're ready to go. It actually starts way before that because we do training with all of our crews. We're constantly working with them to making sure that they're gathering all the information that they need for us to get these reports out to the vendor. Because the quicker we get those out, the quicker we can get reimbursed for these calls. I send those out to QMC. Immediately they go out to the insurance companies, Medicare and Medicaid, and automatically the payments start rolling back in. If the patient doesn't have health insurance, they'll invoice the patient directly. One of the things I started doing this year is that when we get a patient that lists that they don't have insurance, I've worked with Parkland Medical Center that on a daily basis, I'm communicating with them, and within 24 hours, they're going back and checking with those people that have been brought in and getting me that insurance information so that I can get it back out to QMC. To try to help speed the collection process along. The co-payments or other balances, they're either invoiced directly to the patient or they'll go to secondary insurance. They invoice out at 30, 60, and 90 days. They send out letters and phone calls, and they work with them, and the goal of QMC, we stress this with them all the time, is to try to do what we can to help those individuals, right? We're not here to make money. This is our primary business. We're not a private ambulance service, but we do have to try to collect the reimbursements that we can. So they truly go and try to work with them, and I'll talk about payment plans and other things in a minute. Small balance write-offs may be approved by the town, so we could get contacted by QMC. They'll explain a situation to us, we'll discuss it, and make a decision as to whether or not that is something that we're willing to accept as a write-off. But QMC does not have collection authority. They're not a hard collection agency. We have, and that's something I'll talk about in just a minute. So after approximately 120 days or so, if they've exhausted everything with the client and they're just not getting any results with any of the payments, they transfer it to our vendor, which is Lamont Hanley and Associates. But if they're working with QMC and they've set up some kind of payment plan or something like that, they'll continue to work with them for another 2 months or so. Again, our goal is not to, jam somebody up. We're here to try to do what we can to help them get through what was most trying time. So these claims are worked with QMC for 120 days, but after about 180, it stops there. There is a hardship process that is dealt with typically through QMC. They have a procedure that they can go through. You have to use the federal poverty guidelines, and then they'll come back and make recommendations as to whether or not these people qualify for that, and they'll give us what they recommend that we would do. They might say, yes, we should accept, instead of the $1,200, the $600 is more appropriate for this kind of thing. We do, for deceased patients, we do a write-off. We do not charge them. We will submit it to insurance companies, but that is not ever pursued beyond that. It's just basically submitted, and if we get something back out of it, we do, but there is nothing, we don't want to cause more pain in somebody's family in that way. So the hard collection agency in Lamont, they'll send out phone calls and letters. They're sent to assist the customers with, and they still will try to work and do payment options with them. They will, if they're not having any success, they will use credit reporting as another means to try to, work with them to try to get them motivated, let's say, to try to at least make some atonement to try to pay back. So anything, beyond what they have written down has to be authorized. They have to come back with us and get our permission. They have a very strict guidelines of what they will and will not accept based upon dollar amount as to how they'll pursue it, how aggressively. A great example is that if an insurance company sends you the check and then to say, hey, you need to give this to the town of Derry to reimburse the town for your ambulance fee, and they do not do that, they have full authority to go after them and to collect that money. And they'll work each of these accounts for 6 months is what they are asked to do. But when those options are all exhausted or that they've just had no contact with the individual, and that does happen, people will not respond, that open account is returned to a dairy financier and will be considered for a write-off. And the only thing that can change that is that if somebody goes and sees that they have something on their credit report, they could say, hey, I want to get my credit rating higher, so I need to pay off that fee. So there might be something that, down the road, we might see reimbursement from that. So that's kind of a quick nutshell of how our billing practices work, why we're looking to do this increase, and the justification for why we picked the 15%. So I'll go back to you all. Yeah.
Any questions?
Makes sense.
Questions, Brian?
I'm just trying to absorb it all, really. But 72%, you said?
Yes.
Is, okay.
Yes.
And then I noticed like the Medicaid is kind of low. That's a state issue, right?
Yes. Yeah, and we're bound by law that we cannot charge more than that. Something that is happening now at a national level, there's actually a 4-year audit going on. We are participating in that audit right now. It's an audit being conducted by Center for Medicaid Services, CMS. What they're looking at is that they are potentially going to look at raising those Medicare and potentially Medicare rates. That's the good news. The bad news is that we're in year 3 collection right now. They pick an agency and you're asked to collect data for a year. And then at the end of that year, you have 5 months to submit that data back to CMS into an online database that they supply for you, that they will then, at the end of the 4 years of all this data collection, then analyze all that data, make a decision about whether or not ambulance services need to be, if the rates are appropriate or not, or if they
Right.
need to be raised. Then, at that point, they'll then make a recommendation to Congress at the federal level, and laws actually have to be changed for those numbers to actually increase. So that's, while we're doing the audit right now, I don't expect to see anything within probably another 3 to 4 years
Right.
of that being changed.
And then on the private pay, are you finding that insurance companies are lowering, they're not paying as much? Do they have a set rate? And they're not paying as much, so the patient is basically on the hook for the additional dollars?
What I'm actually seeing, the phone calls that I get are more from insurance companies, believe it or not, are telling individuals that, we're sorry, we're not going to cover that under your insurance because the ambulance was out of network.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And
So,
so what I'll politely pass along to the person that's called me, I'll say, well, then what I suggest that you do is you file for an official appeal, and you ask them what ambulance company would be considered in-network.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Doesn't make
If I have
any
an accident
sense.
in Derry, what am I supposed to do, call Laconia?
Exactly, and it's not that they're not paying, but I'm finding a lot of people are
They're playing-
running into a lot of roadblocks
Yeah.
with getting their plans to be followed.
Okay.
What's the percentage of hardships that you coming across?
It's pretty low, to be honest with you. It's probably less than 10%. I don't have that hard number for you, Counselor, but,
Roughly, so.
yeah. We will, I will take, we've told them, we'll do whatever it takes. If you are $5 a month, we'd like to see a little more, but if you're honest and this is what they show with all their bills, we'll do that. I think, so what my understanding of how it works is this, again, is happening at QMC, that they apply for these hardships. They have to show, they just can't say, I don't have any money.
Right.
They have to show bank accounts, they have to show statements of credit cards and anything else to be able to justify to meet those federal poverty guidelines. And they have to do some work to do that. And my understanding is that they'll get some inquiries, and not nearly that amount of people will actually apply for it.
I'm all set to go.
One more quick question. So what are we deciding tonight? Are we deciding the percentage?
Raise the rates
Well, you're recommending 15,
15% we're recommending.
over
but
2
you
years.
put 20 in there, but we have to review it no, you didn't put 20.
I did,
Did.
our recommendation is 15. What I did is I wanted to give the council
Just to
a
see
look.
where that would
Yeah,
be.
so I gave 10, 15, and 20% levels, where it would be, our recommendation is 15%.
Okay, and every 2 years we have to review it. Okay,
Sir.
thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, seeing no other questions, I'm going to make a motion, Resolution 2023-067, to adopt the revised fee schedule for ambulance transport and associated emergency medical services, whereas Section 7.2 of the Charter empowers the council to regulate all fees for the use of services of the town, and whereas the current fee schedule for ambulance transport and associated emergency medical service requires adjustments to meet the cost of providing such service, and whereas it is the intent and policy of the town council to maintain a prudent tax rate as possible by making appropriate and reasonable use of user fees for certain town services, now therefore be it resolved in council that the proposed schedule of fees for ambulance transport and associated services dated September 5th, 2023, and the attached hereto is hereby approved, and be it further resolved that the town administrator is instructed to cause the newly approved schedule of fees to take effect no later than October 1st, 2023. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon its passage, adopted,
It should be today, sorry.
September 5th, 2023.
Motion by Counsel McEachran, second by Counsel Katsoukaris. On the motion, Counsel Cherichello.
Yes.
Counsel Katsoukaris. Yes. Counsel Gracie.
Yes.
Counsel McEachran.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for your
I
time.
think you did a very nice job.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Yes, that was very good. Like, a lot of numbers. Jim
Kept
likes
the
to
good
you.
work.
I like the numbers. I'll do my
All right, moving on, 23104, resolution 2023-068 to finalize the fiscal year 24 appropriations for the 2023 tax rate. CFO Mark Fleischer presenting. So, oh my God.
Good evening. So
Good
this
evening.
is to account for several post FY 2024 budget adoption resolutions and confirm the overall FY 2024 appropriations to set the tax rate. Per Resolution 2023-027, the FY 2024 budget was adopted by the Town Council on May 2nd, 2023, in the amount of $58,712,053. Post-budget adoptions, there were several resolutions approved by the Town Council which impacts the FY 2024 appropriations and revenues. The post-budget adoption appropriations total $941,214. And that does include the $20,000 that you approved earlier this evening for the Taylor Library. The supplemental appropriation approved on Resolution 2023-051 for the K-9 program will have a tax rate impact of $74,686, offset by any grants or other funding sources if they become available. The other supplemental appropriations is offset by state aid or capital lease revenues. The amended appropriation total, therefore, for the FY 2024 budget is $59,653,267. Per Resolution 2023-068, we are seeking approval of this amount to set the tax rate.
Comments, questions?
So,
Great job.
we're going from 58.7 to 59.6, right?
Correct.
How does that affect the, it doesn't put us over the cap or anything?
No, doesn't even come close.
It doesn't impact your tax rate. They all have offsetting revenues or additional taxable value.
Okay,
So your 594 target is still in effect when you approve the budget back in May.
perfect, perfect, thank you.
And what is it, Dave, the rate?
$5.94. That's the rate the council approved back in May.
Right,
And what's that above and beyond last year? Up how much?
I think it's about 4, right around 4%.
No, but nickels and dimes, how much was it?
oh, the difference between
what's
last
the
year's
Last
rate.
year and this year? Is it 62, 42?
I don't have a,
I don't know.
Ah, get it to me. You
I think it's 41 or 42.
just can't remember what the number was.
I got it home.
All right, I got it at home.
It's between 38 and 42.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. We'll talk tomorrow, no big deal. Thank you, Mark.
okay.
Questions?
Seeing no questions, resolution number 2023-068 to finalize the FY24 budget, where Section 9.4 of the Town Charter vests in the Town Council the responsibilities to enact the budget by May 31st, and whereas the Town Council has reviewed the revised budget as proposed by the Town Administrator and has acted upon resolutions necessary to implement the various services, programs with the budget, and whereas the Town Council subsequently adopted resolutions to proceed with lease agreements, additional state aid, forestry tanker, K-9 program within the supplemental appropriation process, and whereas the State Department of Revenue Administration has requested a revised bottom line amount for which the 2023 tax rate will be calculated, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Council hereby finalizes the FY24 budget in the amount of $59,653,267, as set forth in the attached summary. Resolution shall take effect immediately upon passage, adopted September 5th, 2023.
Second.
Motion by Counsel McGuckern, second by Counsel Katsoukaris. On the motion, Counsel Cherichello.
Yes.
Counsel Katsoukaris.
Yes.
Counsel Gracia.
Yes.
Counsel McGuckern.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Thank you, Mark, 5-0. Counselor, comments, questions? Before I say that, next meeting is September 19th.
Yep.
I will not be here. Counselor Spencer will be here, so be on your best behavior. She will put you in line.
Good luck with that.
Comments? Counselor, concerns?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Let's go.
Third.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
All right.